I went to an all-girls Catholic convent school, and the thought of me going into a career that I would be mostly talking to men, boys, was, don't do that. The people I was working with in the office were saying, oh, you won't last, you won't be able to cope with all the mud and the foul language and
here you are.
Yeah, here I am, yeah.
What initially attracted you to your profession?
I wasn't initially attracted to it. I wanted to be an architect, but 50 years plus ago, that was as much a no-no as being a quantity surveyor. And when it came to doing the application forms for university, right at the last minute, just before I posted it, I put the quantity surveying course at the bottom. And I still don't know to this day why I opted for quantity surveying when push came to shove, but I'm really glad I did. I'm still
There's just
really
something
happy.
there for you, like that
Yeah.
was just pulling you towards it.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I'm glad I did. It was the right choice.
I wanted to do medicine initially, so it's been quite a change, and then realised that wasn't for me. And then one of my friends just suggested that my brother's a chartered surveyor. And I was like, oh, what's this? So I went out and did a bit of research around it, and I thought, this is something that I think I could get involved in. This is something I quite like, and I've stuck with it, and so far haven't regretted that decision whatsoever. I'm still very early on, so we'll have to see how it goes.
Mine's very similar, actually. So I didn't really know what a surveyor was. I'd never heard of it growing up. And then when it came time to do my UCAS applications, I think I wrote about 4 personal statements. And I went to my English teacher and I asked her just which one read the best. And it was the real estate one. So my English teacher sort of picked my degree for me just based on how well I could write. And then once I actually started doing the degree, then I found out about all the different pathways within it, because beforehand I didn't know. I went into the degree completely new, and I felt so far behind a lot of my peers because it seemed like they'd sort of consciously made the choice, whereas I just sort of fell into it. But again, like everyone else, I'm really glad that I did, and I'm glad that it's ended up the way that it has.
Yeah, I think mine's slightly different. Well, I studied economics at university, so I always thought that I'd go into more of an economist role rather than a construction economist. So I think it was quite interesting when I had a look at different economist opportunities that I stumbled across construction industry. Only being in the role for 6 months now, I just think it's so interesting. It's the new projects, you guys would know, working on different projects every day. So I think, again, like everyone else, I'm quite happy I've stumbled into that industry. It's really interesting.
So, Kathryn, when you said that when you were applying for university, you wanted to be an architect, but that was as much a no-no as being a QS. What do you mean by it was a no-no? Was it just something that was frowned upon, something that just wasn't done?
I went to an all-girls Catholic convent school, and the thought of me going into a career that I would be mostly talking to men, boys, was, don't do that. And architecture was a little bit better than surveying at that time. There were, a few women architects, but I suppose I was the original Christmas tree fairy, so naive about it. I never even thought that I might find myself the only girl in the class. And it was all a bit of a shock, I suppose, when it came to it. But I think I was hoping that there might be one or two, as I'd been led to believe would be the case with architecture. So it was all a bit tense.
As a sort of a professional, and you've experienced quite a lot, is there anything that has been significant, like that you've witnessed, the changes within the industry whilst you've been involved?
I suppose, given that it's 50 years, the technology is one of the biggest things. I think I'd been working about 89 years before we even had a pocket calculator. And then it was all done with a slide rule. What's the slide rule?
Yeah, that's the next question.
It was very low tech, and it was a time as a quantity surveyor, every job we did was done with bills of quantities, which obviously has changed hugely over the years. Sad to say, the numbers of women in the profession haven't changed very much. And I think, you know, anything that can be done to try and improve that would be great.
Would you say that the industry's changed more so like in the past sort of maybe 10 years, or has it been like a continuous change?
Well, I don't think it's really changed much
Yeah.
to say, you know, oh yeah, there was this big surge at this particular time. I think it's just been
Slow and
very
general.
gradual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because, like you said, you were the only girl in your course. When I was there, obviously my degree was a little bit more broad. I would say it was probably about a 50-50 split in my class, but then you looked at the actual quantity surveying course, and even then there was only about five girls out of maybe 200 students.
I think
So-
at Loughborough, like I know in my class in the past couple of years, there's probably about a third of us are girls, and then there's 2/3 boys, but it's a much smaller class. So there's only supposed to be about 45, but due to sort of the teachers' assisted grades, there was actually double the amount who managed to get on the course. So there is quite a few of us now, but I don't know whether that's just specifically Loughborough or whether things have changed in sort of the past couple of years.
So what do you think that maybe as people already in the profession we could do to support the growth of that? Is it we need to focus on a recruitment drive? Is it we need to go out and be doing engagement with young people before they start making those university choices?
I think so. I think we leave it too late. I've done some work at one of the high schools in Leeds, connected with International Women's Day, and we were talking to the sort of year 8 girls there, and they were really interested and just hadn't any idea that this was a line they could even think about following.
Yeah, that's something that we find because the three of us, we work on the schools engagement programme with Turner and Townsend, so we sort of lead it out of West Yorkshire. So we work with a lot of schools in West Yorkshire. We do a lot of schools engagement, but we're finding with schools, they want you to go in at like year 11, year 12, but by that point, people have already made choices. They've sort of got a focus on where they're heading, and even still, we go in and they don't know what we do for a job. We spend probably about 15 minutes at the beginning of every session just explaining what a quantity surveyor is or what a surveyor generally is. So I think, like you said, we do need to be going in and speaking to students early on, even primary school age students. There's books now that are aimed at primary school students that cover surveying as an industry. So I think just putting the idea out there to children and young people that this is a career that's available to them and that is very accessible to them.
I think sort of in the position that I've been in and some things that I've experienced, I think other people have been similar, that it's like, oh, have you got family, have you got a brother, have you got a dad, have you got an uncle who's in the industry? And that's how a lot of people sort of will know about what a surveyor is, through family rather than through schools, universities or things out there, that it is, predominantly like male people that have come in and been like, this is what my family does, like this is how I've gotten into it.
I think just to add on to that, in terms of bringing people into the construction industry as a whole, I think it's really important to target students that are studying different types of degrees. So just to touch back on me studying economics and not wanting to come in, well, not thinking of coming into the construction industry, I think that's mainly because I didn't think I had that option. I never thought construction economists actually exist. Same as within T&T, we have a digital department, but those are students that have studied digital in university, so digital analytics, but having that opportunity to apply that degree into the construction industry, I think we need to be targeting students and colleges and universities that are studying all types of apprentices and degrees and show them the options that they have in the industry.
I think that's something that is probably a misconception of the industry. We had an event with a school before where we asked them, what are some of the stereotypes that you think about when you hear the built environment? And almost all of them were about labouring professions or being physically on site 24/7 doing the manual work of the building. They didn't quite think about all the work and all the professions that go into getting to that point, getting to the point where something is being built.
And the behind the scenes kind of thing. It's not the actual person who's putting one material on top of the other. It's not people that you see necessarily on site all the time. It is sort of people hiding in the background who are running around and doing stuff as well.
I think maybe we're just not very good at marketing our profession.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think that what you said is one of the big changes that have happened since I started out, because when I did my quantity surveying degree, it was a very vocational course. You know, it's very much geared to what you do in an office as a quantity surveyor. Very different now. It is much broader, although there are more apprenticeships coming in now, which, you know, it's taking it back a little bit to the more vocational side of it.
Yeah.
And my dad was a bricklayer, but him and my mum were dead against me doing this. They couldn't understand why a nice girl would want to go and work with all these uncouth men, you know, on building sites.
It's just
But
not
they got
normal,
over
is
it. They got over it eventually.
Is that like a perception that you had to fight a little bit against, that you were seen as like a nice girl going into a bit of a rough profession?
I think so. Yeah, and you know, even when I got to the stage of doing my year out and industrial experience, the people I was working with in the office were saying, "Oh, you won't last. You know, you won't be able to cope with all the mud and the foul language and."
And here you are.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah, yeah. It's not been like that at all. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and that's why I'm still working.
Yeah. I think it's just understanding how to break those stereotypes and what we can do, not just, well, mainly females in the industry, just making sure we can kind of make it an inclusive environment.
Yeah.